Hello, everyone, and welcome to Spanish Slow News, the free podcast where you get to improve your Spanish vocabulary and keep up with current events at the same time. It's a simple idea. We read the news in slow and gentle Latin American Spanish, and at the end of every section, we'll take some time to talk about the key terms used in the script. So let's get right to it. This is our second episode. This is December 7th, 2017, and today we want to talk about Bitcoin. The coin just hit $16,000. It's an all-time record, and we're going to take advantage of that to talk about some key terms regarding finance and markets. Bitcoin cotiza por encima de $15,000 tras fuerte alza en apenas 12 horas. Londres. El Bitcoin remontó el jueves hasta ubicarse por encima de los $15,000 por primera vez en su historia. Tras sumar más de $20,000 a su valor en menos de 12 horas, con lo que la criptomoneda más famosa del mundo ha ganado más de 15 veces en valor desde comienzos del año. Let's talk about two of the keywords in this sentence. Okay, first, cryptocurrency. How do you say that in Spanish? So it's two components. You have cripto, which comes from cryptography. So we have crypto and then moneda. Moneda is actually the translation for currency. Now we also have remontó. Remontó. So that is a verb. The verb is remontar, and this is the past version of it. Now the word has three different meanings. One of them is to ascend, and the other one is to surmount. But in this case, of course, it means to ascend. It means that the Bitcoin was rising. So let's hear it again. El Bitcoin remontó el jueves hasta ubicarse por encima de los $15,000. Let's get back to the text. La escalada la llevó a un máximo de $15,212 en las operaciones de Bitstamp en Luxemburgo justo después de las 14 horas meridiano de Greenwich, tras haberse negociado apenas por encima de los $13,000 unas 12 horas antes. So in this bit we have a term which is used in finances all the time, máximo, máximo. And of course that's the equivalent of maximum, often shortened to max in English. Now let's go back to the news. Expertos dicen que el lanzamiento de este fin de semana de futuros de Bitcoin en el CBOE, una de las principales plazas globales de derivados, estaba ayudando a apuntalar el precio de la criptomoneda por las expectativas de que llevará a más inversores al mercado. Now the keywords in this section are futuros, which is literally the plural of futures, futuro singular, futuros plural, and then we have derivatives, which are translated to Spanish as derivados, or in some cases, derivadas. Derivados is male, derivadas is female, but there doesn't seem to be a consensus of what to use, so both are valid. One more time, back to the news. Las transacciones de futuros significarán más demanda, y es una forma de ratificación del Bitcoin y de las criptomonedas en general. Están ahora en el escenario principal, dijo Charles Hayter, fundador de la firma de análisis de datos criptomonedas CryptoCompare. So a few keywords here. First of all, transacciones, which is the plural for transacción, and of course it means transaction. We also have a very interesting one, which is demanda. So demanda can be very complicated because it can mean two things, and you have to be aware of context. So demanda in an economical context means demand, like supply and demand, whereas in a legal context it means lawsuit. So let's jump back into the text again. Okay, so there's an interesting one here, which is volatility. Volatilidad. Volatilidad. And it doesn't really go by itself most of the time. Well, it can, but most of the time it'll be associated with mayor volatilidad or menor volatilidad, which means greater volatility or lower volatility. Mayor, greater, menor, lower. Now let's jump back into the news. Operadores agresivos, como en los fondos de cobertura, y los que operan a partir de algoritmos, podrán usar este mercado de futuros para ingresar a las transacciones de bitcoins con altos niveles de liquidez para vender en corto agresivamente y hundir los precios, dijo el analista de Think Markets, Naim Aslam. So again, we have a really interesting set of financial terms here, like fondos de cobertura. Fondos de cobertura. It means hedge funds. If you're thinking literally, it might be a little bit complicated because what it means, and I mean by a literal translation, is coverage funds. Fondos, funds, cobertura, coverage. So it's one of those phrases you're probably going to have to memorize. Another interesting word here is liquidity. Liquidez. Liquidez. It all comes from the same Latin root, liquidus, and you realize that the more academic language gets, the more you can rely on the Latin root, so you can go for it and take some chances if you know your Latin. Los jugadores ahora tienen un incentivo para estar del lado corto y ganar protegiéndose contra una subida, agregó. La última subida llevó a la capitalización de mercado del Bitcoin, su valor multiplicado por el número total de Bitcoins en circulación, a más de 260 mil millones de dólares, de acuerdo a CoinMarketCap, un sitio web de cotizaciones. El valor de todas las criptomonedas alcanza ahora alrededor de 415 mil millones de dólares, de acuerdo a CoinMarketCap. Okay, so in this section we have a few interesting terms such as capitalización de mercado. Capitalización de mercado. Capitalización de mercado. So what it means is market capitalization. Capitalización is of course capitalization. Mercado, market. Now if you pay attention to the figures, something really interesting was happening. It said a más de 260 mil millones de dólares. So let me translate that literally for a second. More than 260,000 million dollars. And the press these days are doing that to sort of avoid the confusion with the different meanings of billion. And let me tell you what I mean by this. It's just because in the UK, billion used to mean a million, whereas in the US it means 1,000 million. Now that can be confusing in Latin America as well. Billón, which means billion, can also mean a million. But so many people are actually reading news from the US that it just gets confusing. So a lot of media outlets are actually now counting the number of millions. So they're saying 1,000 million, mil millones. So that's all the time we have for today. I hope you guys actually enjoyed it and it was useful. If you enjoyed the podcast, you can support it on Patreon and help us keep this content free forever. We would love to hear from you and actually hear your suggestions. So if you're in YouTube, drop those comments below and like and subscribe. And if you're in Twitter or Facebook, you can actually find us using the handle @SpanishSlowNews. And we will have new content every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. See you next time.